Baldur's Gate 3 is getting a major update soon, so I decided to complete a challenge run while I waited for it. But what could I possibly do? Mostly everything has already been done before. And then I realized Baldur's Gate is filled with many weapons, armors, and rings that completely change the way I would play. But what if I discarded all of these items every single time I took a long rest? Yes, I mean everything. Our weapons, armors, rings, amulets, potions, and even food. But let's set up some ground rules first. Number 1. After every long rest, I must discard everything except my camp clothes. This is only so YouTube doesn't come up from the hells to strike me down. Number 2. No save scumming in dialogue. That means if we get a roll that we don't find favorable, we are not allowed to go to a previous save to rectify it. And number 3. I am allowed to leave items for another long rest. As long as I don't put them in my inventory, it's fair game. And after those ground rules, everything else is allowed. But before we get into the action, make sure to subscribe. I'm trying to get to 100 subscribers, and it would mean a lot to me if you were a part of this journey too. And with all of that out of the way, let's get started. I firstly create a character that seems to be I make him a barbarian, as he will be needing the strength in order to fistfight everything he sees. And I wake up in a strange environment, and the first thing capable of communication is a talking brain. I just have to free it from its confines in a skull. So I roll my first dice of the run, and it's a natural 1? This is going to be an interesting run, to say the least. And I don't think I'll be able to show this on YouTube. I then continue my journey and meet Lae'zel, who offers her sword in the upcoming battle against our first enemies. This is more of a tutorial than an actual fight. They were dealt with easily, and I meet another person stuck in the same type of pod I was. So I do her a favor and free her. Shadowheart is a cleric, and that means she will be able to heal us, and thus will be required for the near future. With our dream team set, we head into the cockpit of the Nautiloid, and we are greeted by more enemies. But it's not the enemies we're interested in, but rather a weapon. This devil's weapon, more specifically. What he holds is one of the best weapons for the early and mid-game. So in order to get it, I have Shadowheart cast Command Drop, which successfully drops his sword, the Everburn Blade. I send the blade to Invincible and send Lae'zel to the transporter to land the ship safely. After waking up from a long nap, fetching Shadowheart, I head over to definitely not a vampire, Asterion, and after some convincing, he joins our party. And so does Gale after saving him from a wormhole. I would also save Lae'zel, but she was being mean to me, and that hurt my feelings. So I knocked her out and robbed her of everything she had. We walk around and encounter goblins raiding an outpost. I mean, considering that the challenge technically hasn't even started yet, it wasn't all too hard to clear out. I then head over to a tomb, where I very nearly get rocked. There is no reason why this fight should have been this much of a struggle. Shadowheart first gets killed with a wombo combo, and Gale is soon to follow with an ice knife to his face. This leaves only Asterion and Invincible to take out the remaining bandits. Eventually, we do take out the last bandit. I use the Scroll of Revivify to bring back both Gale and Shadowheart, and we continue deeper into the tomb, where we easily get rid of a bunch of skeletons. And we meet Withers, who can change our class, provide some hirelings, and revive the dead should we need it. I firstly use his powers to change Shadowheart from a trickery cleric to a life cleric, thus making her a more effective healer. Since we won't always have healing potions on us, a dedicated healer will do us wonders. And after doing a couple more menial tasks, such as saving Barkus Root, convincing ogres to join us, and a tough fight with some skeletons, I reach level 3, where I make Invincible a Wild Heart Barbarian. I also decide to take my first long rest. You know what that means. Everything has to go. My Everburn Blade, my armor, and also the horn that summons the ogres. Yeah, that probably would have been very useful. Well, we can't take it back now. New day, new me. And now we have nothing except the clothes we are wearing. And I also think that Asterion will make a garbage rogue without his knives. So I believe it's time he also receives a class change. I decide to make him a monk, and specifically, a Way of the Open Hand monk, so he doesn't have to rely on weapons for damage. And with that, I decide to take on the greatest challenge of this area, the Goblin Camp. I'm sure it will be fine. Here we have to kill the 3 leaders, the Drow Minthara, the Goblin Gut, and Dror Ragzalin. And before you say, you're too underleveled and you have no weapons. I know. That's why I'm doing it. Yes, I enjoy the pain, but first things first, we need some backup. So I head towards the prisons of the Goblin Camp and free a grizzly bear from its prison. It helps us deal with the goblins, and he's revealed to be the druid named Halzin. He is a druid who can transform into a bear, which is basically a whole new health bar that enemies have to take down. He will be really useful. And after dealing with some more goblins outside, we see our first target, Minthara. I first tell her that there's free pizza outside, and she starts heading there right away. But unfortunately for her, she walked right next to an inconspicuously placed explosive barrel. Who could have placed that there, I wonder? With the first leader down, I leveled up to level 4, where I give both Invincible and Asterion the Tavern Brawler perk, which increases my melee damage without weapons relative to my strength. For the next leader, Gut, I first open up a giant spider cage and start the fight by throwing her into said spider cage. With Gut being distracted by the spiders, I was free to kill the rest of the goblins without a hitch, and after accidentally throwing a goblin at Halsin, the giant spider finishes off Gut with a bite, and Gale burns the last spider to ashes. One more to go. Dror Ragzalin. He's definitely the hardest one of these 3 to kill, so I'm going to have to prepare before it. I go up to Roa Moonglow and try to get a 5-finger discount on some of her items. Unfortunately, she isn't all too pleased with that, but neither am I, and I show her the error of her ways. Stealing from her gets us enough camping supplies for our next long rest, as well as a couple of weapons, armor sets, and smoke powder bombs that will help us. And just like that, it's time we meet Dror Ragzalin. But we have to introduce ourselves with a bang. So I fetch a smoke powder barrel, and with the cost of fire motes, he goes Kabee! And with another round of smoke powder bombs, a batch of goblins are also finished off. We have Dror Ragzalin surrounded. He was powerless, or at least that's what I thought. And he pulls out 2 insane moves out of nowhere, and Halsin dies a painful death. Well, that's just how the cookie crumbles. And it was only 2 more rounds until I killed Ragzalin. So we finish him off, mourn our lost hero, and head to camp to long rest. With Halsin gone, I realized how vital it was that we have a druid in our party. The extra tankiness as well as the damage, all without any armor or weapons, sounds too good to pass up. So that means Gale will be our druid. Once again, I discard everything, all of my gained valuables, essentials, and food, and I head back to the goblin camp. With this area being eradicated, I loot the bodies of the dead, and I head outside, and there are many more of them. I completely forgot about this. Those ogres would have been very useful right about now. I was stuck in this one fight for over an hour. It was death after death, and my basic strategy boiled down to Invincible throwing goblins at other goblins, Asterion unsuccessfully trying to deal some damage, and Gale transforming into a bear. All the while, Shadowheart desperately tries to heal everyone at the same time. This fight was a struggle, and every time Lady Luck was on my side, I made sure to save my progress, so that when I died, I could redo it differently. And after ages of trial and error, I took down the biggest threat, which gives me room to breathe. It also gives me some space to eliminate the remaining enemies. I can't properly convey the sensation that completing this section gave me. But let me just say that drugs could not give me the amount of dopamine that beating this gave me. So I head back to the Emerald Grove to tell them of my tale, and the trader gifts me a certain item to let me feel more in. So I head back out to the wilderness, encounter a devil, a burning house with stacks of food, and long rest once again. This time, spending the rest of my night with Shadowheart. Discarding everything once again, I spend some time eliminating some gnolls, getting the gnolls to eliminate themselves, and eliminating paladins for Karlach, who joins our party. And now I head into the Underdark. The Underdark does not want me here, evidenced by the 2 minotaurs it sends our way. Trust me, I don't want to be here either. After a battle of attrition that leaves the party on our last legs, I decide to long rest once again and greet Wool, who joins our party as well. Once again, everything gets discarded, and I retrieve some items from the previously killed paladins, as well as some explosive barrels for safekeeping. This time, I head out to kill a spectator, and I honestly thought this would be a tougher battle. The spectator unpetrifies some drow warriors, which it mind controls to fight us. But after one hit, we can turn the warriors back against it. And after some time, we overwhelm the spectator and head deeper into the Underdark. This time I encounter a bunch of fishmen worshipping the wrong blood god. I want to be a part of this. So I succeed the 20 roll, and I become the Blade of Buwal. I don't know how I feel about this, so I instantly rebel against my leader. And it wasn't the best of my ideas, honestly. These fish people have hands. I did not expect them to be this powerful. They even killed my entire team once. I try again and eliminate their false god. So I utilize this opportunity to cull their numbers, right up until there was only a handful left. The problem is, Asterion is also the only one alive. So with some quick thinking, I place down an explosive barrel right next to my dying companions, and I eliminate a grand total of 0 fishmen. Invincible dies too, but who cares? The barrel did enough damage to the fishmen for us to get the drop on them, and eventually, Asterion clutches up and takes them all out. So with the money I scavenged from this area, I revive the entire team and meet a horde of mushroom people. And with that, I take a long rest. Discarding everything, I head towards what's known as the Grimforge by boat, and I do a funny. Once docked, I steal an explosive herb barrel, get a lobotomy, and I ask Withers to create a hireling for me. Say hello to Atom Eve. She will be our camp cleric. This is a cleric who gives the team a myriad of buffs after every long rest, such as extra health, resistances to damage, and may also cast Warding Bond. This also means that every time we come back to camp, Atom Eve will probably be found dead. So I do the usual and free Nier from his soon-to-be death. I'm not going to spare him. In fact, I actually think I'm going to blow his mind with this one simple trick. Asterion may have been sacrificed, but Nier should have been dead as well. He isn't even down to half his HP. This was not worth it. But my hero, my savior, Stoneguard Kerr, rights my wrongs, as she dodges and weaves Nier's attacks, and with a finishing blow, sends him flying into a pit of lava. The rest of Nier's lackeys were a non-issue, and just like that, this area is complete. Now we only have one boss remaining in the Underdark, before we can head back to the mainland. That is Grim himself. So with Asterion as our human sacrifice, we send him down by himself to do what needs to be done, while the rest of the party spectates from above. He pulls the lever, summons Grim, and baits him over to the forge, where he is hydraulic pressed not once, not twice, not 3 times, but a grand total of 4 times. I was honestly surprised that this boss was so easy. He usually destroys me in every single playthrough, so I either have gotten lucky or I've just gotten good. With that done, it's time to head southwards to Auntie Ethel, where, to make a long story short, I have Gale's eye removed, I beat her to a bloody pulp, and I extort her to permanently increase invincible strength by 1. With everything else done in Act 1, all we have left to complete is the Githyanki Creche. So I head towards its location, only to be stopped by the Githyankis themselves. Lae'zel, back from being knocked out, comes in to save the day, and she gets immediately one-tapped. 5 seconds of fame turn to nothing. But now it's just us. Asterion deflects an arrow back at one of the Yankees, and proceeds to finish him off in just one of his turns. Astarion was hit with an instant wave of karma, as Baratha not only knocked Astarion out in 2 hits, she uses Action Surge to gain another action for the sole purpose of making sure he's dead with a critical hit. I have never seen Hater energy this radiant before. Shadowheart gives him a quick revive, and Invincible finishes off another Yankee. But Baratha, with a seething hatred for elves, Astral steps towards him, only to hit him with another 2 strikes, killing him yet again. Holy hell. After a few reckless attacks and 1 swing of the mace by Shadowheart, Baresha falls, leaving the Lost Gith as nothing but a victim. We are now at level 6, where we get an extra attack for Invincible, Astarion, and Wildshed Gale. Astarion can now deal extra necrotic, psychic, or radiant damage. Shadowheart can also now use Spirit Guardians, and Gale can turn into an Owlbear, which we will be using all of the time. Time for the Githyanki Creche! Nope, never mind. I did not even get a chance to move. Therazin made all of my party members fearful, meaning they move on their own. And the Yankees proceed to wipe the floor with us. Yeah, hell no. Never mind. I'm just gonna go straight into... With the weapons taken from the undead in the creche, I head into the Cursed Lands, where I firstly come across a goblin encampment. I would usually purge this group, but I decided to play along this time, and have them guide me to their hidden base. My plan was foiled after a group of Harpers ambushed the caravan. We decided to stay with the Harpers and start taking out the goblins one by one. But the biggest problem by far was Karnus, the Drider. Every other turn, he would cast Sanctuary on himself, which prevented anyone from attacking him. And that was not even mentioning the mental amount of damage he can deal. All that with a staggering 239 HP. Yeah, he was a force to be reckoned with. So I firstly eliminate all of the other enemies, and once all were gone, we all focused our attacks on Karnus. And even with the full power of the team and the Harpers, he was still a pain to beat. As thanks for rescuing them, the Harpers take me to their base, the Lost Light Inn, where I am given a friendly greeting by Jaheira, and she informs me of a Voltramite who's been ravaging these lands.
He has become, in fact,
So in order to beat this invincible Viltrumite, I meet up with Isabel, who not only gives me a resistance to the Shadow Curse, but also guides me on what I should do next. But before she can finish her sentence, we get ambushed by more undead, who are compelled to kidnap Isabel. To prevent this, I first cast Sanctuary on Isabel so she can't get attacked, and I have Shadowheart on healing duty so that there's no chance that Isabel's HP falls too low. I also completely surround Marcus, so that if he tries to attack Isabel, he would have to avoid a dozen opportunity attacks all at once. It wasn't long until Marcus falls, and with a couple more rounds, so do the other ghouls. I then complete many more menial tasks to gain some levels, some more successful than others, but I reach level 7, and I commit to another long rest once again. You know the drill at this point. I start the new day by looting a stack of corpses for weapons, armors and the like, and I go out to hunt the Thorm lineage, first starting with Garangoth Thorm. For some reason, she's a money-hungry Toldsman. To defeat her, we just have to destroy the skulls which she has lying around. And this is the fight where I discover my newfound love for hitting enemies with other enemies. There's something about it that just puts a smile on my face when I see two enemies die at the same time, after I make them violently kiss. But once all of the skulls were eliminated, Garangoth falls to just 7 HP, where she is gone in one hit. Next up, Malus Storm, who is a representation of the safest doctor in Albania. I would show the skillful gameplay I conducted to eliminate him, but I did no such thing. I just kindly asked him to kill himself, and after not one but 2 natural 20s, he does exactly that. I should go to the casino after this. Last but not least, Thistleboled Thorm. I also decide to have him kill himself, this time through a drinking contest. And through multiple lucky rolls, as well as many inspirations used, Thistleboled spontaneously combusts. Does this mean I win the drinking contest? It's of no matter, as it's time to progress through the actual story. I struggle through the puzzle I've completed 1,000 times, and help some skeletons fend off a Justiciar invasion. They come out of these umbral tremors, so I devote my party to clearing these, before more Justiciars emerge from them. This is not particularly difficult, as I can clear most, if not all of the tremors before more pop up in the next round. And eventually, all of them are cleared out, and I am granted audience with Balthazar. Oh, Balthazar. I just know he's going to be a problem, that's for sure. We can fight him in one of 2 locations, either here or the Shadowfall later on. Neither area is an enjoyable spot to fight in. In this area, he not only has his brother, Flesh, but he also has several ghouls by his side. And in the Shadowfall, he has the entire Vatican City supporting him. Pick your poison. And the poison I pick is... nothing, because this is not yet my problem. 2 Moonrise Towers. It is here that I see the Voltramite that Jaheira was talking about, and it's none other than Omni-Man. And showcasing his true Voltramite heritage, he is completely in...
Are you sure?
Now faced with my greatest threat yet, I have to start preparing. So I go to the local weapons dealer, get the best weapon I possibly can, manipulate Asterion to do what I want. Look, it was for the greater good, because she gave me a potion to increase invincible strength by 2 permanently. And this is when I decide to complete all of the trials of Shar in order to get the orbs to enter the Shadowfall. Trial 1, the soft step trial. It's just simple stealth really. I get the orb and proceed to Trial 2, the self-same trial. In this trial, I have to fight the exact duplicates of my party. The game intends for your party members to fight the copy of themselves only, as if you strike at someone that isn't your copy, you will get a massive debuff. Little old me did forget about this, and proceeded to have my entire party prioritize one target to eliminate them quickly. Oh, I'm such a silly goose. This will probably not affect anything later down the line. Right? Trial 3, the Faith Leap trial, intends for me to follow the map on the floor to navigate the invisible platforms. Why do big think when big jump do all work? Next up, the final trial, but also kind of not a trial, is just one big wave of Justiciars. I have really nothing to say as I don't get an orb here, but a Spear of Shar instead. The final orb is actually held by a demon, Jurgir. He threatens my life, but I convinced him to lend me the orb if we help him out. So he commissions us to get rid of his rat problem. Yeah, this is a greater problem than I thought it would have been. And it would have been easier if I just saved up a level 3 spell slot for Spirit Guardians. But we are here now, and there's nothing we can do about it. The main tactic is just throwing rats at rats. Yep, that's literally it. Besides Gale owl-bearing everywhere, of course. But once his rat problem was dealt with, a devil called Raphael appears out of nowhere and takes Jurgir back to the hulls before I could say a word. Anyways, with all of the 4 orbs gathered, I can now decide to fight Balthazar here or in the Shadowfall. I firstly try my luck here, only to be beaten to a pulp, packed up and thrown out like the trash I am. You see, Balthazar has an item that gives resistances to all of the undead near him, including Flesh and himself. And it doesn't help that his ghouls can paralyze us if they land a hit. Balthazar takes a speed potion to give him an extra turn. And just for a cherry on top, he can also cast Cloud Kill, which will most likely incapacitate at least one ally. So I think it's safe to say that fighting him here is out of the question. Time to go to the Shadowfell, where he doesn't have his ghouls, but instead, skeletons upon skeletons. Balthazar's initiative is always above ours, so he summons his skeletons before we have a chance to move. My first attempt could not go any worse. Asterion was firstly blasted into a pile of green mush, and I accidentally hit Gale with a guiding bolt. Yeah, I think we all know where this is going. My second attempt did start off beautifully. Balthazar stood right on the edge of a massive cliff. Who would I be if I didn't take advantage of that? I give him a push in the wrong direction, and off he goes. I just have to deal with the rest of the skeletons, which is easier said than done. The sheer amount of enemies, even though they don't do much damage, swiftly reduces my team's HP, and they also reduce Shadowheart's health pool to 0 as she gets Balthazard. Touché. And it doesn't help that Gale is taking a nice nap, all the while Astarion is throwing airballs. Every attempt after that one just gets worse and worse. Balthazar always eliminates Astarion before he even gets a chance to move, and the skeletons don't give me a chance to breathe either. So, we have to plan a pregame. Fight him before he even knows what's happening. And by that, I'm planning on stunning him with Astarion's stunning strike before he can summon his skeletons. And then I'll have Invincible throw him off the map. A small, insignificant problem, however, is that Balthazar needs to roll a natural 1 on a saving throw in order to get stunned. So I basically have a 1 in 20 chance for the stun to work. Time for some trial and error. Wait a second. It's usually Balthazar's turn at the start of the fight, but by some miracle, my initiative was higher than Balthazar's. Although he wasn't stunned, this means I have a chance to do this. Finally, this boss frustrated me more than anything else. Let's move on. So I have a deep conversation with Shadowheart, free the source of Omni-Man's invincibility, the Night Song, and have the best long rest in a while. Sure, I'm losing all of my items once again, but Balthazar is dead, and I can rest easy knowing that I cheesed him. So I awaken and have Atom Eve cast all of her possible buffs on me before I leave to Moonrise Towers. But I do want to level up to level 8 before that, so I do more tasks, such as getting the Birdman aroused, as well as finding the dead parents of a now orphan, and after killing the nurse caring for the dead parents, I also get some poisons that I'm never going to use. I also kill some trees and fishmen once again, which finally gets our party to level 8. For Invincible, I give him the feat of ability improvement to give him 2 more strength with all of his strength upgrades so far. He now has a total of 23 strength, and I'm starting to feel like he truly is stronger. I give Asterion the Savage Attacker feat, Shadowheart the War Caster, and finally Gale the Tough feat. And just like that, I think we are ready to take on Moonrise. So I loot the bodies in front of Moonrise, getting the best armor sets and weapons I could possibly get. I also trade some of the equipment I found to Tally in order to get some smoke powder bombs and many healing potions. I enter the fray with Jaheira and her Harpers. Jaheira starts the battle off with an icy shower, but is quickly nullified by Commander Zaral. Gale then transforms into an owlbear and courageously leaps into battle, knocking everyone onto their buttocks. But I quickly learn that overconfidence is a slow and insidious killer, as Gale gets smited a grand total of 4 times. This puts him on the brink of death already, and he was quickly shoved off that brink by 2 arrows in the groin. Great start. So not learning from these mistakes, Invincible rushes in and starts using other absolutists as weapons. Astarion follows suit, and Shadowheart knows that heroes never die, and heals Gale off of the floor, only to be met with even more smites. 3rd time's a charm? Okay, what is their problem with Gale? Druid classism runs deep, apparently. This fight is possible without him though, as with Invincible throwing everyone around like playthings, Astarion giving bruised noses, and Shadowheart keeping mostly everyone on their feet, we are able to take out all of their enemies on this level. I say my apologies to Gale, get some great loot off of these bodies, including a cape and an axe for Invincible, and I head up the stairs and greet Omni-Man. I'm sure he's saying something important.
Are you sure?
Don't care. Speed potion, makeshift weapon, throw, attack. The Night Song, Dame Aelin, also returns and proceeds to turn herself into a joke as she gets downed in 2 hits. To make up for her inability to fight, I apply a poison that I got from the nurse onto my axe, which completely paralyzes Omni-Man, allowing us to crit him freely. Dame Aelin also revives herself and deals the majority of the damage for me. And with that, Nolan heads back into his Viltrumite headquarters, taking the Night Song out with him. So the party jumps down the hole and enters a strange area. These headquarters would be difficult and challenging to navigate if it didn't have this, a rejuvenation shell, which when touched fully heals my entire party and grants all of my spell slots back. The best part is, I can use it as many times as I want. You know what that means. Time to abuse this feature until it calls the abuse hotline. I have Shadowheart summon 3 skeleton archers, Invincible summon a crow, and Gale his tree people. And I have Shadowheart cast level 4 aid on everyone to increase everything's HP by 15. I also cast Death Ward on everything to give them another chance at life if their HP falls below 0. Yes, even the bird. And to summarize what happened in these headquarters, I took out a horde of undead, I completed a puzzle that made me question my sanity, and I took out some mind flayers to rescue some tieflings from the grove. I also free Wool from his warlockhood by killing his patron. This surely will have the effect that I'm hoping for. And now, it's time for the final fight. The fight that decides the fate of these lands. Invincible and his posse versus Omni-Man. I start the fight off by having Astarion get spotted by Omni-Man. This was intentional, all parts of the plan. So while Astarion has a fat chat with a big bad, Invincible conducts his own stealth mission to free Aelin from her binds. Hopefully she doesn't get two-shotted like last time. Now the battle truly starts. A Mind Flayer tries to dominate Aelin's mind, but I turn it around on the Mind Flayer and dominate the Mind Flayer's body, freeing Aelin from a mind domination. Astarion also unsuccessfully 1v1s Nolan, and with 1 health point remaining, Astarion trips him and makes a break for it. Gale takes out some pesky skeletons with an owlbear form, while Shadowheart takes on a horde of walking brains with her skeleton army, but is a bit too late, as the brains target Astarion and incapacitate him. Why is it always him that falls first? With a quick heal, Shadowheart brings him back to his feet yet again, and this time, the team gathers up to eliminate all of the brains. Once done, Aelin shows us that she's useless once again by missing all of her attacks, which leaves it up to Gale to get the final hit. So Nolan sacrifices his life to become an Apostle of Merkel. In this form, any character that stands nearby the Apostle of Merkel cannot be healed, so everyone in melee distance of it will have to come back down if they're in trouble. It also has almost 400 HP, so we need all of our damage dealers up there, along with Shadowheart's Guardian of Faith, all while the rest of our summons deal with the skeletons that are being summoned en masse. Honestly, I was quite surprised at the amount of damage I was dealing, as although it was nothing to write home about, it was enough to get the job done. With Gale casting Wall of Flame, as well as damaging him in owlbear form, he was definitely our greatest damage dealer, with Astarion at a close second, but that's if he actually landed his attacks. Invincible was a great tank and a good damage dealer all at the same time. And last but not least, Shadowheart tried to keep the skeletons at bay, and at the same time keeping everyone healed. I got the Apostle of Merkel down very low, below 50 HP in fact. In every playthrough I've done in this game, not trying to toot my own horn or anything, but I beat this boss quite quickly and easily. But in this playthrough, I discovered that if a skeleton summon lives for long enough, they can sacrifice their life to heal the Apostle. What? This was a shock to me, and I don't think I have enough burst damage to deal 70 damage in one turn. It was crushing, knowing I was so close, yet so far. I tried to deplete it, but I only get him down to below 20 HP. He heals yet again. And that's when something spoke to me. My urge to blow things up, to nuke everything. It spoke into my ear like the Green Goblin Mosque. And I remember that I have 5 smoke powder bombs, just waiting to explode. After Invincible attacks the Apostle, he drops 5 smoke powder bombs on the floor. Gale then transforms back into his human form and casts another wall of fire. But this time, it damages both the Apostle and the smoke powder bomb. Fire plus smoke powder equals a big boom. Thank you for watching part 1 of this 2-part series. It means the world to me that you watched until the end. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe to make sure you stay tuned for part 2. I'm trying to get to 100 subscribers, so I'd be glad if you joined me on that journey. So, I'll see you on the next episode. Cheers!